Okay, my friends, we're going to be talking about a giant sea monster that they found over the United Kingdom. David Attenbourough is involved in this, and they found it in gray clay, all right, a layer of clay. How would it get in this layer of clay? I think I can explain it, and they're making their explanations. Now, this is a giant sea monster, and this is called the TREX, the home of Attenborough's giant sea monster. Well, Attenbourough is just the one that's explaining it. The guy that really found it was just an average guy walking down the beach. Ooh, look at that. And then David Attenbourough more or less took credit for the discovery. And now they are incorporating him into it. But originally, he was just left out of it. Just like everybody that makes these discoveries, the experts take control and they claim basically that they did it. Now, I'm not saying David Attenbourough did in this case, and David Attenbourough, I don't have anything against him. Unfortunately, he's lived his whole life making claims that just have turned out not to be correct. And I wrote to David Attenbourough years ago in 2014 about my mud fossils because I thought he would be interested, but he wasn't, thinking that they weren't old enough, millions of years old. But anyway, that's another story. He wrote back, it was very nice. He says, I'm just not interested because they're not old enough. Well, so they're raising a whole batch of money to do this research, and it's about this, what they think is just a gigantic dinosaur. I have a human fingertip that's 3 feet long. It's close as long as that whole head. It's just a fingertip. And I've had mine DNA tested. Not that part wasn't CAT scan. I have other ones that were CAT scan, but this one is way too big to CAT scan. 3 feet long, fingertip of human, and it came back with dense, excellent quality human DNA. I still have these things here. I live in the best Triassic era in the world. They date everything in history according to this exact geological location in Connecticut, USA, which is the exposed Triassic era rock. Red bed, gray clay, black cap. This was found in the gray clay, black cap region. I will show you exactly where this was found and what the details of the geology there is. And it was, this guy here died during the Great Extinction and was preserved pristinely in the exceptional manner as mud fossils are, because that's how they transitioned according to what they were entombed in. And this was entombed in the black cap section above the gray clay. So this was entombed in volcanic ash, basically. Let's take a look at it. Okay, this is not just a bone type fossil that was found after the flood. This was a pre-flood fossil that petrified in the Great Flood in the gray clay, or well, the black cap area. Now listen to what he has to say here.
Wow. Some of that went to a clay stone, so it took me ages to grind and get that out. I couldn't go much further with that. Yeah. But yeah.
You see what he says? They got it down to where it was the clay. Here you can see the palette, the roof. This is not bone. This is turned into mudstone.
Into the palette there, it extends beyond there. Wow. Some of that went to a clay stone, so
see, some of it went into the clay stone.
It took me ages to grind and get
they
that
grind it all out to try to get it out.
But yeah, some really interesting things that I think Judy's got quite excited about. That she studied a lot of pliosaur material, but she said the level of detail and preservation in this is starting to throw me. Now, what's this bone?
There must be things you can see on here that you just don't see on other pliosaur skulls.
Yeah.
Because you've got so much surface area that you don't normally see. There's normally matrix in the way, there's bits missing. This is complete.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely complete. Bits squished over that side.
That's it.
But apart from that, I mean, that adds character anyway, really. You've got all these teeth.
Yeah.
These are all in, where they were, they're all in
They were,
situ
virtually, just slipped out.
Yeah.
Which is,
fabulous. Tell us what you've done to the front teeth.
There's the original tooth. You see there, it comes right.
All right, I'm just going to let this sit for now, because this has been transitioned into mud fossils, just exactly like my stuff. But it happened in the black cap area, so this was completely covered with ash from, I would say, probably volcanic fallout. He says they'll be rewriting the textbooks. Well, maybe. Listen to what he says here. They really, I'm just listening to what he says. I'm going to make a couple of comments. They're saying, oh, the teeth fell out, so we put some more in there.
Fabulous. Tell us what you've done to the front teeth.
There's the original tooth. You see there, comes right down here. Now you can see we made this bit up, but you see it.
We made this bit up.
Then right down there. Yeah. And so there was a scar one we know went down as far as that. But these are the original roots. So you see wood.
See, they're saying these are the original roots. So what we did was put new teeth back on top of them. Look.
What we've done is just put the sort of crown
it's like
on.
A dentist doing a crown of a
just like a dentist.
Human tooth, basically. But what you've done is you 3D scanned some of these teeth, and then just replicated them. Yeah. So they are representatives of the teeth that were with the skull. Yeah. You've just finished the crowns off.
Exactly.
It looks beautiful.
Exactly. So.
Well, all my stuff is completely 100% real. Like Caesar, my goose here, Caesar Augustus. This is feathers. All right, this is what happens in mud fossils when they are preserved in pristine condition as are mine. And my giants are bigger than this thing. My giant could have ate that thing for lunch. One of them has a 3-foot long fingertip. That would have been, I figured, about 180 feet tall, maybe a little more than that. This thing's a puppy compared to that. He would have had that for lunch. There's so much research that can be done on this animal because it's basically in good shape. Mine are in better shape.
Is it so complete? Yeah. You've got such good surface detail. You are going.
I've got detail that makes that thing look like scraps. Listen to this. This is, I found very cute. Now listen to this. They're talking about so much research can be done. Now listen carefully.
Is it so complete? You've got such good surface detail. You are going to be rewriting the textbooks on pliosaur skulls by the looks of it.
Yeah, there's this sort of controversy, I think, I'm sure, over some of this. But let me just see if I've got.
Well, if you're not causing some controversy, you're not doing your job, are you?
If you don't get a lot of people arguing and saying no, and it's very controversial, as is my work, you're not doing your job. You're just saying what everybody else says. And that is what's happened now. Controversy, they don't want to know about it. They just want nice, smooth.
No, exactly.
There we go. Anything new? So
anything new is
there's a material. Right, okay. Yeah.
See, they're trying to recreate this thing by making new teeth and everything else. This is a mud fossil, and teeth for some reason didn't stay. I don't know why. The teeth, I can't find any teeth in any of mine, and they just somehow went away. And basically, the bones normally dissolved. Now this was in the black cap, which is volcanic ash, which has this is crazy. Because coal ash is basically the same thing. And it's got all these heavy-duty transition metals in it. And I just saw another article today talking about the same thing, where we can get these exotic, rare earth elements out of coal ash. Coal ash is nothing but burning biology, creatures and plants. That's what makes coal ash. And it creates a lot of chemistry which penetrates these things through their membranes and preserves them. Because transition metals are the preservative. And they are in this, right here. These are the rare earths, scandium, yttrium, lanthanum. Those three are pretty important. And then there's some up here, cesium and so forth, that are the rare earth ones. But they come from coal ash. I found this interesting. I think they cut off all the flesh down till they got to the bones, because that's all they can think about is bones.
12 half hundredweight bags that we took out of mudstone.
Off this?
Mudstone. They took out mudstone. Mudstone is the flesh. They're cutting the guy's flesh off of here so they can get down to where the bones are.
For this, and bits of plaster as well, because, yeah.
That's so originally this must have weighed about 1.5 tons, maybe?
Well, certainly over a ton, because the farmers, when they lifted it, nearly wet the back wheels of the thing.
Yeah, we had the same with the Rutland ichthyosaur.
Oh, right,
you had to do a few test lifts just to make sure that skull wasn't going to tip the whole thing over, and the abdomen block weighed about 1.5 tons.
Well,
so,
yeah, it's all turned to stone, mud fossil. It's not hard to understand this stuff. You see this? By the size of the skull, it's bigger than a T-Rex by far. Okay, this is David Attenbourough, and he's going to be talking to this specialist that does 3D scanning of these fossils. Now, they dressed this thing up a lot. They fixed it up, they chiseled into it, they made all these little things so they could get down to where the bone was. They took the flesh that was on there away. I've been watching this thing carefully.
Paleobiologist Dr. Andre Rowe is a world-leading expert in 3D visualization of fossils.
First thoughts, this thing is absolutely massive. And
all right, first of all, you can see that this is turned into mud fossil. It's a stony mud fossil. They put teeth on and did all kinds of things to make it look good, but this is what the original condition was.
And I will also add that the level of preservation is amazing. There's this common misconception that fossilization is just this really common thing and we get these complete skulls all the time, and that's sadly not the case. This is actually a 1 in a million, maybe 1 in a billion type specimen here.
Now, I would like to get a hold of him and have him take a look at my stuff. He's saying 1 in a billion? I've got some that are much better than that. And they're human. And they have been DNA tested.
Using the latest technology, Andre is carrying out the world's first surface scan of a pliosaur skull.
Well, of a pliosaur skull, but I've had a surface scan of my DNA tested mud fossils, and I've also had 3D scan of them. That isn't so good. The surface scan is best. But this is what he's looking at, stone. This is nothing more than stone now.
So right now we're capturing basically hundreds of thousands of images all at once, essentially putting together a big 3D jigsaw puzzle. The end result is a really nice looking 3D model, which we can use for biomechanics, studying the anatomy. I think we'll be able to unlock a lot of mysteries about what these sea monsters were doing. And I'm really excited to see where it takes us.
Once the scan has been finalized, I meet Andre at the University of Bristol to discuss his findings. Has he seen anything in the skull structure that shows our sea monster had the power of a truly deadly predator?
There's some massive openings back here along the jawline, and that's good for muscles to attach and bulge out.
There'd be a muscle go running through there.
Yes, we have the pterygoid muscle group, which is in a lot of big dinosaurs, and it's integral to having a really strong bite. And we've hypothesized that this particular pliosaur is kind of the apex predator in the Jurassic ecosystems it was living in.
In the seas?
Yes.
Does the skull give you any information about what animal's prey might have been?
The animal would have been so massive that I think it would have been able to prey effectively on anything that was unfortunate enough to be in its space. A popular hypothesis is that these animals were actually ripping off the limbs of other animals to disable them from swimming away, and then kind of going in for a kill.
So this is really a top predator?
Yes, I have very little doubt, just judging from how massive that skull is. I don't see what could have possibly hurt it.
How would it compare to...
My giant human beings could have ripped his head off and thrown the rest of the body on a little fire for dinner.
With T-Rex?
I imagine it would be pretty comparable, and they were kind of both the respective apex predators in their ecosystems. So I have no doubt that this was sort of like an underwater T-Rex, if you will.
Okay, let me ask you the million-dollar question.
Mm-hmm.
In a battle between T-Rex and our pliosaur, who's going to win?
As much as it pains me and brings a tear to my eye to admit it, I think my T-Rex is going to lose this fight. And then millions of years later, American paleontologists will envision this scene and break down into tears.
Okay, that's David Attenbourough. Now, again, I contacted him in 2014 about my mud fossils and never went anywhere. So it's time to take a new look at these. Okay, my friends, I want you to look extremely carefully at the layering here. They would say this is all sedimentation, it just eroded and came this way. Well, I don't take that approach whatsoever. This is the product of the Great Flood. It was an impact of Venus into our atmosphere that caused total global devastation. 3 layers of debris, which was the red bed, the gray clays, and then a black cap, which is up here. Here's what happened. They found a dinosaur here, or whatever they call it. It's a plesiosaur or something like that. And it was right on this particular line right here. You see that layer? That's where they found it. Now, you see this layer down here? That, in my opinion, is the gray clay, the first layer of gray clay that was deposited above the red beds, basically, which is the boiled off flesh. This was an impact of Venus into our atmosphere, boiled everything, boiled the oceans. Harvard says, yes, that did happen, the oceans boiled, and they thought it was something that was like 3 or 4 times the size of Mount Everest. Well, in ancient historical records, it was Venus that came from Jupiter, was literally born from Jupiter, almost hit our Earth, just glanced off the surface basically, went way out around, came back and smacked right into Mars, created a huge gouge across Mars, it destroyed it, and that's why it's the red planet. It's nothing left there of atmosphere whatsoever. What happened here on Earth was you had tremendous impact. Everything went crazy, and the oceans boiled, overwhelmed the land. Everything was in turmoil. Boiling oceans flooded everywhere on Earth. This is not just one area here or one area there. It's a worldwide 3 layers called the Triassic. Red bed, gray clay, black cap. Here's our black cap area up here, where everything settled down. This was the gray clay, and then there was a whole lot of debris that came down after that from the burning and all that stuff. But then eventually there was a real heavy black cap that came. This guy here was trying to he was hid somewhere, and then he somehow got out and was running across this layer here and finally died. It was just a terrible catastrophe. Now my stuff, I have the exact same situation, but only mine, I am on the top of the Triassic. This is like the bottom of the Triassic. Here's what happened. This might put it in perspective a little bit. There's 3 layers. There's the red bed, the gray clay, and the black cap. So red bed, gray clay, black cap. And that was the worldwide layers. And it was called the Great Dying. Everything on Earth died. It was, well, not everything, very close, but they did have recorded history of this. Somehow, some people lived. And it was recorded as a hot water, worldwide global flood, heavy silicates and salts. The silicates came up from the bottom of the oceans called siliceous ooze, and of course the salts were quite heavy. Now, it led to exceptional soft body preservation. That is, you just look it up from Yale. It's called Exceptional Soft Body Preservation of Ediacara biota. That's what they named these things for some crazy reason, because of somewhere in Australia. I'm right down the street from Yale. I have this stuff right here on my property. Now, it led to exceptional soft body preservation. Now, mine are tested in the modern human mitochondrial DNA. Now, here's what happened. All the oceans covered all the land, boiling and churning and, literally cooking the creatures' bodies. And when it did, it stabilized them. It cooked all of the red, gooey, fleshy stuff out, and they created the red bed. After that, the floaty sort of stuff that was debris, the body parts and all that, settled down into that red bed, and it was the gray clay. Then on top of that, the fallout from the burning, the volcanoes, the terrible devastation, was the black cap landed on top of the gray clay. I live in the best place in the world for Triassic rock, and mine is exposed. I'm right at the top, so I'm right on top of this layer right down here. I didn't have to have all this stuff. A lot of places in the world, they had just huge, huge piles of stuff piled up, but mine was a different story. My house is right on the black cap, and right under is the gray clay and the red bed, and all of my stuff, like even my buddy here, Caesar Augustus, he stabilized in that gray clay. And there's his feathers. I've shown him hundreds and hundreds of times. That side was flat because that's how they died. They died flat on one side, and the other side is perfect. Now, this was a different story. This died this area must have been so overwhelmed with this black and gray that it couldn't get anywhere, and it tried to run on this layer. It was probably hidden somewhere, and it came out of its cave or whatever and tried to get away and ended up dying on this exact specific layer. Mine also died on one exact specific layer, and mine are gigantic. This dinosaur, whatever they want to call it, was just a tiny little lizard, basically, compared to even one of my giants, which is got a 3-foot long fingertip. I figure it must have been at least 180 to 200 feet tall, which this thing here, I don't know how long it was, but it certainly wasn't anywhere near that big. This would have been lunch for my guys. This is the situation we have here. We got the red bed at the bottom. Right above that, we have the gray clay, which is this. All right, and then above that, we have the black cap, which in my case is this right here. So don't forget, we got the red bed, the gray clay, and then the black cap. Now, I am in the exposed Triassic era. There's very few of these. I'm in a very exceptional place. This gray clay, which, as we saw, is above the red bed, was pushed down through the red bed. This is the red bed. This is the gray clay. It's supposed to be up here. It got pushed down through. And you can see the red here and the gray has pushed down through the red bed. Quite obvious, extremely obvious. There is no other takeaway here. Now, all right, this is just extremely obvious. What I'm going to show you is this is a human footprint or someone very, very close. All right, it's even got the balls of the feet right here. You see those two little spots? Those are the balls of the feet. That's where the guy's heel hit. Boom. And he ran forward like this. Now, he might have had some kind of an opposable toe or something. I don't know. But it sure looks like that is, well, I know those are the balls of his feet. And this is a foot of some kind of creature, humanish, that pushed that gray clay down through the red bed. That means that these were wet at the same point in time. There's no question about it. The Triassic, and this is Triassic, it's right on, I am on the top of the Triassic exposed area. It's the best place in the world. And all of this stuff I just picked up off the ground. Now, over the top of this came that black cap. The black cap came over the top of this, and I have that as well. So I have all three layers, the red bed, the gray clay pushed down through the red bed, and then the black cap on top. And then I have a plethora of different body parts and bones, gigantic hair follicle from some huge, gigantic creature. I think probably could have been human, because I have a human footprint, a fingertip, which with the fingerprints on it. It's 3 feet long. Has the fingernail, and it has the fingerprints. That's the grip skin, popped right off. I smacked it off. This is a hair follicle from another giant creature. What it was, I can't be certain, but it certainly could have been human. That's the erector pili muscle, sebaceous gland, shaft, the hair shaft. Bottom is where you have the vein and artery. I've shown these hundreds and hundreds of times. I have not had one single academic want to engage. They refuse to engage. Even this guy here, Mike Ross, at Dinosaur State Park. I said, will you look at this stuff? I'm right down the street from you. I really, literally right down the street. And he says, no, we only do dinosaurs. I said, this is a human footprint, the same stuff you guys are looking at. And you won't look at it? He said, nope. We won't look at it because it's not a dinosaur. And besides, I have to go teach the kids about the dinosaurs. I'm not kidding you. He teaches and he refuses to be taught. This is what we have throughout our society now, is the people that are in charge, they couldn't care less about the honest truth. They care about their position and staying in power over the kids. They don't care if the kids learn truth or not. It's just as simple as that now. Okay, I always say it's all about the details. And what are the details? Well, we know there's a red bed, a gray clay, and a black cap. I live right there, right that spot where my feather is touching, right there. That is what's called exposed Triassic rock. Now, think carefully about what you're seeing here. The rest, they're showing over here as covered. So it's not, they know that it's there, but it's covered up. Well, mine is right at the top of the surface. Everything I have here, I picked right off the surface of the earth. I didn't dig really hardly for anything, maybe just a taste, because they did a little excavation to put in a office for my wife. And when they did that, they didn't dig deep. A bunch of stuff came out of there. This is where I am right here. Now, think about this carefully. This is exposed. That means it's up at the top. So what happens there? It goes this way. I am at the very top of the top. I am at the best of any Triassic that exists. This is where they do the research of how deep these layers are, which indicates to them how old these layers are. And they say they're 250 million years old, and I say no, that is not correct. These are very recent, and there was 3 layers, and it was because of the Great Flood. And I have the giants, and all of the things that I have here can prove every word I'm saying. So there is no reason for them not to take a look at this, because if the truth is the goal, well, you got to look at the evidence. You can't just deny the evidence because you don't like the outcome. And that's what's happened. That's a gigantic hair follicle, whatever. I show these over and over and over, and I'm going to keep showing them because new people are coming on every day. If you've seen it 100 times before, well, you're going to see it another 100 times. I'm just not going to stop. This will not stop.